Alright, so we're going to continue practicing the pinch pot form. I'm going to take the cube of clay. You want to round it in between your palms. If you cup your palms like this, you've got a lovely round form to press the clay into. So I'm keep spinning it, compressing it, rolling it. You see, I'm not using the canvas table for this. It'll dry it out really quickly. So I've got pinch pot form. I'm going to put my thumb through, well, okay, not through. You're going to put your thumb, press your thumb, engage the core of it so it's not bending back. You just straight into the clay. So you've got about this much thickness of a bottom, about 1/4 inch. And then you're going to gently compress the clay in between your thumb and your fingers all the way down to the bottom edge. You want to avoid just pressing onto the table and just pinching the top, because then you'll end up with a very clunky, cornered bottom edge. And really you want the entirety of your vessel to be even and consistent. So I'm compressing. Every once in a while, closing your eyes and just getting into your sense of feel and touch is super helpful, right? And as you're pinching, you want to pay attention to what's happening with the clay. If there's a crack or some inconsistency, the best tool to use to smooth the clay is actually your finger, and the fingerprints on your finger. When you compress into the clay, you can get the clay very smooth. You want to avoid dousing your pinch pot with water. You don't use water at all until you absolutely need to, just because the clay is so dry. You just need to introduce a little bit of water. So in our studio here, you see there's big water containers on each table. There's some little containers. You can actually just get a little bit of water in. We're going to work with scoring and slipping, adding a foot to pinch pot. Also playing around with the idea of maybe connecting 2 pinch pots together. Those of you that are going to make a sculpture for your creature, you might want to make 2 pinch pots so that you have a form you can then alter and add feet and legs and wings to, and make it more of a sculptural form versus a functional form. Or some of you might do something in between. So again, I'm going in the same direction. Okay, I'm pinching all the way down to the bottom. You can smooth the clay by holding the outside and compressing along the inside. Okay. Been doing this a little while, so I actually made this so quickly that it's still really wet, really easy to smooth, and it's not cracking too much. But when you get these, a bunch of little cracks that start to form on the lip here, just compress and smooth. If this is a functional vessel you're going to be drinking from, you definitely want to round the lip. Remember, there's anatomy with the vessel. We've got a lip, we've got the foot, and then the body. So you want to make sure your foot is flat so your pinch pot is not wobbly. And then I'll show you how to add a foot or feet, and also how to add a handle. Okay, so score and slip. Score and slip is how we connect clay to clay. Usually once it's dried out a little bit. When it's this wet right now, say if I was going to make a little handle, anybody that wants to make handles, you actually want to maybe start with a flat coil, and then you can shape it into this question mark shape, so that instead of just sticking some clay like this to your vessel, you actually have more contact, right? And it looks lovely. you would maybe want to make sure that you could fit at least one finger in your handle. This is a pretty teeny little tiny mug, but for the sake of demonstration, when this clay is plastic, like it is now, you can compress the clay into itself. I mean this piece of clay of the handle into the pinch pot form. And you see I'm even smoothing all the seams. All the seams need to be connected, so it doesn't even look like it was once separate. It looks like it's one. See that crack there? You can see the seam. Compress, compress. This clay, both pieces are plastic, so I can connect clay to clay without scoring and slipping. But once the clay, this piece has been sitting out here a little longer, it's a little more dry. To add a foot, I might make a nice round coil. And I'm going to figure out where I want that. When you add a foot to a vessel, you want it to be on the inside of the bottom edge. You don't want it sticking out around the corner. The basic rule of thumb for score and slip is take your pieces you're connecting, trace them so you know where they're going to go, and you're going to score up the surface. Now, you're not making a pretty little grid pattern. You're actually breaking up the surface with a needle tool, or I've got also these 5 or 8 prong. There's several prongs. That's a little faster. So I've scored up the surface here. I've scored up the surface here. Now I'm going to use a bamboo sumi brush. It really holds water. You could use a watercolor brush to apply water to your vessel. And this is what makes slip. Slip is watered down clay, which is what we use to glue clay to clay, especially when it starts to get a little bit dry. So really, instead of just sticking a piece of clay onto a piece of clay and have it fall off in the kiln, you're scoring up the surface so much that when you compress the clay together, it becomes solid, like it was never separated, like it's one piece. So get each piece wet. The more wet or versus dry your clay is, depends the need for more repetition of the scoring and slipping. For example, really dry leather hard clay, you need to repeat this maybe 3 or 4 times. This clay is somewhat still plastic, just a little dry. So now I'm going to compress, and really you want to compress the pieces until you see that liquid slip kind of ooze out the side, and then compress. When in doubt, score and slip. If you're worried it's just a little bit dry, and you're having trouble connecting, just a little bit of scoring, adding the moisture, slipping up the surface. You can see, gives it a little lift, creates a little shadow along the bottom. I'm gonna smooth out the bottom inside. My fingernails are starting to get a little long, so every little time I smooth, I'm looking and I see this little fingernail marks, which is something for you guys to keep in mind. When you're working with clay, it's kind of handy to keep the fingernails short. So you see, now at this stage, I'm smoothing through spinning and a little compression on the bottom. Okay. So we have plastic to plastic compression, and then score and slip. Remember, put your name on the bottom of everything that you make when you're done. All right, we'll look at connecting 2 pinch pots together for our next video.